I be honest? I have this whole intro and I've been calling it cheesy since I started recording. I'm starting to kind of like it a little bit more. It's like, I'm like, it's not that bad. The more I see it, the more I'm kind of like, okay. So, welcome everyone back to my NFL fan series. So, 32 different fans from 32 different NFL teams. I am super excited for this conversation because Clint and I have never had a formal, informal, whatever you want to call this conversation about fans and our teams. And I have had the honor of obviously stalking what you're doing on your page and the things that you all are doing. And I'm completely obsessed because I feel like you all talk about football the way that I do, not just about like what's happening, but the other nuances. And I love that. So thank you for that. And I just want to welcome you in. And then for everybody listening, all of his information will be in the description. So he'll be easy to click, easy for you to find. You won't have to reach out and ask anybody. It will be there. You can go to the description, click on his information, find his channel, subscribe to his channel, because I'm telling you, if you like football, I don't care who you're a team of, you will enjoy the channel. So that is my introduction. So I would love for you to just introduce yourself, let people know who you are, anything you want us to know, and then tell us how long you've been a Seattle Seahawks fan.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you, Flood, so much. Yeah. And for the invite. And I liked your introduction. It's got the good beat. It's got me going there. It's a countdown. What's not to like? It's all good. No, it's fun. And yeah, so Clinton Bonner, I'm part of the Seahawkers podcast. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see my hat, you can see the logo behind me, and it's a kind of a fun logo. So, I mean, certainly kind of by 12s, 412s. Absolutely. It is dialed in for Seahawks fans. We are fans first. We are homers, and we like to come up with unique ideas and ways to, think about the game. So we do during the year, we do 5 different shows that are like literally segmented different shows, a specific preview show, a live show, a post-game show. We even do a gambling show on Saturday mornings. Okay. Yeah. Like just looking at the Seahawks game. It's like, I want Kenneth Walker with over 13 and a half attempts. Because we're sickos. That's why, Flood. So we're just, we're just into it that way. So we try to really look at the nooks and crannies and the different stuff. Everybody is invited. Any NFL fan. It is for Seahawks fans. If you're like a dirty 49ers fan, need not apply. You can stay home for all I care.
The 49ers, it's like, I don't think anybody in the division likes the 49ers except for the 49ers. And I don't think anybody ever talks about the Cardinals besides the Cardinals fans. So it's like this weird thing
you nailed happening.
It. I'm just like, it's just an interesting dynamic happening in this division. So, well, I just appreciate I appreciate fans, and that's why I want to do this. So I appreciate all the crazy. I appreciate all of that because you know that you love your team, and good for you. You should. So how did you feel last season? So I feel like last season was the first year, like without Pete Carroll, without a lot of like staples. How was 2024 being a Seattle Seahawks fan? And then do you have a song that describes how 2024 season was for you all?
Yeah, I do. And I'll start with the song because it will help answer, and I'll give you more detail beyond it. So I'm 47 years old and a white 47-year-old male who grew up in New York. So inevitably I heard a lot of Van Halen growing up as a kid because that's what happens, right?
Okay.
Now this is Sammy Hagar Van Halen, but the tune is Finish What You Started because the season felt really incomplete.
Okay.
And the reasons being, you go 10-7, which is a pretty good record. And since they changed the playoff format and put basically, 14 teams in, 10-7's been good enough to make the playoffs, except for last year. It was the first year where a team won 10 games and missed the playoffs. So we lose the tiebreaker in the 5th tiebreaker to the Rams. So division rival makes it. We don't make it. And it felt like a squandering of there was a lot of positives, but a lot of I don't know what this team is. Our offensive coordinator, Ryan Grubb, was a disaster. And he wasn't Mike McDonald's guy. So it's Mike McDonald year 1. Defensively, it's like, we became a top 10 defense. We played a hard schedule. And you could be like, starting to see this come together, Flawed. Offensively, it's like we got good parts. Like we got Kenneth Walker, we got DK Metcalf, we still got Tyler Lockett, who's effective. We got Gino just balls. Yeah. And yet we were really just like not congruent as an offense, very, very little flow. So it just felt really incomplete. So that was why the Van Halen song "Finish What You Started," because man, did it just leave us like we wanted so much more as fans, and it just felt like a kind of a void year.
Yeah.
That was the initial feel flawed, and then
Off
taking
season.
off season, taking a step back, being like, all right, well,
Yep.
there was a lot of growth there, and it was
Correct. Yeah.
year one for the head coach. So you gain a little perspective as the clock ticks forward a bit.
I like that. And so let's talk about the offseason. So I feel like what happens is at least for me, when I'm a Steelers fan, and I feel like we've been kind of the same team for the past 6 years, but
Right.
what usually happens is after the season's over, when I say season's over, like after the Super Bowl, after it kind of is done, right? And you kind of self-reflect and you go, okay, where are we right now? Where are we? What are we doing? How do I actually feel about this team? And so how was that for you? How did you feel? Obviously, eventually you all lost Geno Smith, you all lost DK Metcalf. So like a lot of weird moving parts maybe took place. I don't know if you were prepared for those or not, but how did you feel like in this offseason? And then I think you guys got a new offensive coordinator.
Yeah, all those things are true. So it was a crazy offseason. And I'd like to kind of give a sense of like where I'm taking something and then help folks get there. Like, so where I want to take it is if you juxtapose the Seahawks offseason, even against like right now, the Steelers, you're a Steelers fan. Right now, you don't have a quarterback. And it's like, will it be Rodgers? We don't know. Is Rodgers now going to go to the Saints because it might be more attractive and Carr just retired? Maybe better. I don't know if it is, but maybe better. Maybe less pressure than Pittsburgh. But, and you look at what the Browns are just continuously just going through, and the Giants are trading up to go get Jackson Dart while they bring in Russ, while they bring in Jameis Winston. And then the Seahawks had like the same amount, maybe even more change. But it's okay. Well, Geno's gone. A week later, Sam Darnold's there. And all right, we traded DK to your Steelers, but we got a second rounder. And we pile up a lot of like middle of the draft talent. And then we go to town with 11 picks in this draft. So I don't know how it's all going to turn out because no one's got a crystal ball. So I don't know if the Darnold for Geno swap is going to be effective at the end of the day. What I can say is like, I think most Seahawks fans, including myself, are feeling really positive. It's like, this was a good team last year at 10-7 who played a tough schedule. We play a weaker schedule that comes out. We're recording this the day before the schedule released tomorrow, which I'm excited for. Some record our plans.
You haven't thought about that at all, have you?
Too much, right? So even throughout all this change, it's like, well, I think this team got better, and it markedly so in key areas that were deficient last year. And you mentioned it too. Yeah, we jettisoned Ryan Grubb. He just was a poor fit. And I'm not going to,
didn't work.
I mean, I don't think he had a really good NFL scheme to have to work. It just wasn't, it was very collegiate. And we talked about that on our podcast a lot. Folks were really, really gung-ho about Ryan Grubb because I think the lineage to University of Washington and the proximity to, it's in Seattle.
Oh, I can see that.
It'll just work. And actually one of the dudes from our podcast, his name's Adam, he was one of the, and the whole pod in general, we were like, we don't know that this is going to work. And not just like, we don't know, so we're not taking a position. We were like, based on what we see, this guy does not run the ball. And he uses the open field of college to his advantage, which you should, but that stuff doesn't work in the NFL in much tighter spaces.
It's true.
And unfortunately, we did not run the ball. We couldn't run the ball worth a lick. We were not commit to run the ball. And his NFL philosophy just wasn't there yet. So we got Clint Kubiak, just to say for folks that might not know, like complete that story. We go get Clint Kubiak, son of Gary Kubiak, wide zone offense, bunch formations, very much out of that Shanahan tree. So at the very least, it's like, we're going to run.
Where was he at before?
He was with the Saints.
The Saints. Okay.
Yeah. So, they had their problems with quarterback challenges, but they ran the ball well. They still had, some success, even with like Spencer Rattler, because they lost Derek Carr, right? And that also will come in later too. Clint Kubiak loves his third and fourth down gadget guys. He loved having Taysom Hill. And I know we're going to cover the draft in a bit. And we might have gotten a player that could step right in day one and be kind of really cool like that too.
I cheated. I know the answer.
You're just smart and you pay attention.
No, I always, the thing that I find actually interesting about, because I remember I watched the Seahawks play a couple of times last year, and I remember thinking like, they're not bad. They're not good, but they're not bad, if that makes sense. Like, because some teams you can watch and you're like, okay, I get it. I get what they're trying to do. I get it. I can see it. And I remember with the Seahawks, I was like, I just don't know but maybe it was because the offensive coordinator was just kind of didn't quite. Okay. Awesome. I almost had a wardrobe malfunction, by the way. So I fixed that. So that's actually never happened before. So I fixed that. Anyway, so if anybody was wondering, I did fix it and I'm not afraid to say it. So the other thing is, I think that's interesting is, how are you all feeling with like getting a new quarterback, having a different quarterback this year, and then obviously letting go of DK, because I feel like he's been there for a while. Mm-hmm. Do you feel like it's kind of like this is what's needed for where we're trying to go, or were you kind of like, you guys got to prove this one to me? Like, hold on a minute.
Yeah, really, really cool questions, right? And we could go in a couple. It's almost like little different strokes for the different players we're talking about. Like, okay. I really like DK Metcalf, and he's been a nothing but a really, just good to very good NFL wide receiver for 6 years. And he's been nothing but a good teammate, and he's your guy. And yeah, he might be a bit edgy. He might be a bit of a loudmouth, but he's your loudmouth, so he's your guy. And yeah, he might be grabbing a dude's face mask and taking a 15-yarder every now and again. But, I always thought he had, I don't know, he was always in the right spirit of like, he's doing it. It may hurt the team in the short term, but it's like, you need some dudes who get fired up and have your back and are on your behalf and have a bit of like an old school chip to them. And DK kind of always had that chip. With that, I wasn't interested in paying him $30 million plus to be a good NFL wide receiver, just because I don't think it's how you really should build in the modern NFL. I think there's other ways. And really for us, we had glaring holes where we got to throw money. Like, our offensive line was a disaster last year, like really, really bad. So team building wise, I thought that was a pretty good move. And I think it all worked out or will work out. The Geno one is still the one to me, which is like, I don't get it, in the sense that Geno was not going to cost an arm and a leg. They were negotiating. You could have gotten him for, 40 million, 45 million, something like that, and gave him 2 or 3 more years. And I don't know where it broke down. It's still fuzzy to me why it broke down and where it broke down. But I was like, wait, if you give Geno a little bit of a pocket, he's incredibly accurate. He's been money. He's been great in the fourth quarter. People were getting on him for some for turnovers, especially in the red zone, which he's got to own those. That's fine. Yeah. But if your scheme is bad and you're not running the football well, and you got to play hero ball inside the 20, guess what? You're going to throw some interceptions. It's going to
happen.
Exactly. So that's the one for me. It's like, that's the biggest risk. Is Darnold going to be who he was last year for the first time in his career? Can he do that again? And I don't know. With Geno, I know what Geno is. And he's a very good NFL quarterback. It's a big risk.
We'll see if okay. And then, so moving on to the draft, you all got I thought the number 1 offensive guard in the draft. He was like, everyone told me I was absolutely crazy that he was even in my top 10, because I was shocked that he was still there. And I like what you all did in the draft. How do you feel like you all did in the draft? Do you feel like you actually filled some holes? Like, do you watch college football?
So I have begun to watch more college football now that they've put the playoff brackets.
Because you all got some really, really strong college football talent. Now, again, I don't know how they're going to, you all have Damian Martinez, you all have Torrey Holt, like all of these guys are Torrey Horton. All of these guys are stellar, like really good, like pick at the litter for college. I was just curious, like, how do you all feel now that you're a little bit further removed? You've had a little bit of time to kind of look and see what you think. How are you feeling about the draft overall?
Yeah. So, I mean, 11 picks, and sometimes you get volume, but you're like, okay, it kind of feels like maybe high floor, low ceiling guys. And
Okay.
I don't think that was the case here. I
Yeah.
think John Schneider took his shots at like over and over again at pretty high ceiling guys. You mentioned Damian Martinez from University of Miami,
Hmm.
bruising running back who's got enough agility. We took him in the 7th round.
Right.
Most
That's
people were like,
crazy.
he's a 3rd or 4th round talent. There was a
Easy.
lot of running backs, but that were available. So dudes like him fell. And then Torrey Horton from CSU, it's like, oh, if he didn't have a knee injury, he's a 2nd rounder, early 3rd rounder. We get him in the
Hmm.
5th. And even on a recovering knee, he's running a 4.41, but he runs in the 4.3s when he's fully healthy. And he's not just a speed guy. We got MVS in the offseason. And in Clint Kubiak's scheme, you need an MVS type who can still burn and clear things out for the stuff that's going to run underneath all your dig
Right.
routes and stuff like that. You have to have that speed element. So we go get MVS on a pretty cheap deal. Okay, we just got I think an upgraded version of what MVS of like with Torrey Horton, who can do that and then some. And
Hmm.
I think he's a better just ball catcher and has better movement skills than MVS. And MVS is a fine veteran, but Torrey Horton's an exciting rookie. So I thought day 3, we just covered those two dudes. I thought day 3 was just like, I'm in love with a lot of those prospects. And I love day 1. You mentioned it earlier. We go get the guard Gray Zabel from North Dakota State, and you get the big farm boy, and we just go do the thing. It's like
Yep.
we've been wanting and desiring to bolster our offensive line, and John Schneider has really ignored it in the early rounds most often. He didn't this year. So that was awesome. And
I
then,
love it.
we kind of hinted at Jalen Milroe
Yeah.
earlier. I
You're
mean,
yeah.
you, that's such a cool swing but at pick 92, so 3rd round, pick 92, the pick, by the way, that was for that came in the Geno Smith trade. So
Oh, okay.
yeah,
Okay.
so
So, okay. Okay.
yeah,
Then I kind of like the trade a little bit better then.
yeah. I mean, right, to figure out, and it wasn't about that we just let Geno go and got nothing in return. We
Yeah.
made a pretty pragmatic trade. There's some risk there, but then we slide in Sam Darnold, and then you go get Jalen Milroe, who,
Yeah.
look, his ceiling is legitimately, it's Lamar Jackson. He's that kind of talent. Now he's
Yeah.
got to go prove a lot, but in year 1, if he could learn, he's flawed. He's shown that, like, he's a humble young man, and
Hmm.
he's got the mindset of, I've got stuff to work on. Cool. And then number 2, like, if he could come in, if Clint Kubiak really wants his next Taysom Hill, who's like, hey, on 3rd and short and 4th and short, we need a dude
Get out there.
who could just move the chains. I think we've got him. So I'm really excited about what he can do as well. So I don't know. I think we got
Yeah.
people who could help this year for sure. And then we've got these interesting pieces that, like, if Damian Martinez plays a little bit year 1, but then they got to make a decision about Kenneth Walker coming up on, his deal. Well, maybe they feel the running back room is great and they could let K9 walk. I wouldn't want that, but I understand how they're positioning for the future there. So very exciting
Yeah.
draft for
I
sure.
can see that. Was there any draft pick where you were kind of like, what are we why him? What are we what was that pick?
Yeah, I mean, so there is, and I think for the Seahawks fans listening that don't know me yet, you might be like, really, you're going to pick this guy? So for me, we traded up in the 2nd round. We traded up from 50 to 35,
Okay.
and we gave away the 50th pick and the 82nd pick to the Tennessee Titans to get to 35. And then we took the safety Nick Imanwari out of South Carolina.
Mm,
And so now Imanwari is the physical absolute freak, and he's got good tape. It's not like he's a bad safety whatsoever. The
mhm.
guy's a All-American. With that, though, so much of it was, oh, he's the next Cam Chancellor and other folks of that ilk. And I'm like, well, let's slow the roll a little bit. So maybe a little unfair to the young man, because
Yeah.
He's actually a better athlete than Cam Chancellor, but he doesn't hit like Cam Chancellor, and nor does he seem to play like Cam Chancellor. So for me, yeah, it's just like he's looking like he's going to be a strong box safety early, but I had other dudes down the board that I thought were just equally as good safety wise. So to me, I thought day 2 had, I'm picking some nits here because honestly, it's a very good draft. And if Mike McDonald and John Schneider thought he was a first rounder and then traded up in early day 2 and they're like, hey, we got our guy that we were contemplating at 18. Well, then I just got to accept that and be like, I trust Mike McDonald specifically to mold a young safety because he's done that with Kyle Hamilton. He's done that with Geno Smith. He knows how to work these safeties. So I'm very confident that it will work out. I'm hopeful, but he wasn't for me. I was like, ooh, it's a little, I thought there were other dudes. So what did we forego? We didn't go get a center. We could have had Jared Wilson. We could have taken an earlier tight end. So there was just some other areas that I thought, or we could have gotten one of the Jack Beshes in the wide receiver, or Jalen Knoll from Iowa State, who to me were super high on my wide receiver list. And we waited and waited and waited on wide receiver because of that trade.
Got it.
But that's the guy that I'm like, I got to wait and see. I got to see it on the field.
Yeah, I can understand that. So having said all of this, so you guys were 10-7 last year. You have new offensive coordinator this year, new quarterback. Obviously the schedule's not out too, because I think sometimes the schedule really helps you to kind of figure out like, okay, if we're not in our groove, but we have a bye week, we're usually good. Like you can kind of assess different things. But without having that, how are you feeling this season is? Like, do you all think that, I don't think you all are rebuilding. Do you think that you're contenders like to win the Super Bowl? Do you think you're contenders to get into the playoffs? Do you think you're contenders to win the division? Like, where do you see the Seahawks right now?
Yeah, I mean, 17-0 in the regular season, clearly, right? So it's
Super Bowl champs.
Yeah, I told you we were homers, right? No, I mean, I think we're legitimate, very legitimate division contenders, and
Okay.
I view the Niners as not. They won 6 games last year, and people are like they were unlucky. It's like, well, when you age, you get injured. That does happen. So Vegas has the Niners at 10.5 wins. I'm like, really? What? Why? What are you seeing that I don't see? The Cardinals, better, but better. They gained on defense.
They'll be better.
They added Josh Sweat. They added, Calais Campbell. They made like good veteran additions. They will raise their floor. I don't think they're contending for the division yet. The Rams are good, but you have a 37-year-old quarterback who at spots was not good in the regular season. I tip the hat. He had a very good postseason. Stafford played really, really well, and they've really redone their defensive line in a matter of 2 years post, Aaron Donald retiring. So I tip my hat, and McVay is a darn good coach. However, I think we can go toe-to-toe with the Rams, and so that's where I'm at. Now, contention in the NFC, the Commanders are going to be good for a long time because they got the right guy. That's the way it goes. And the Eagles are probably, if I'm being honest, they're probably still in a class by themselves. But it is very hard to repeat in the NFL. And seasons are long and things happen and you get out of flows like you were just saying, Flood. So it looked so good and so smooth for the Eagles last year. That might not be the case this year. We can't just stamp it and say they're going to repeat because we just don't know that. But, being honest, I think it's going to take a lot to dethrone the Eagles in the NFC this year. So right on that cusp, maybe a playoff team, maybe with a deep run in our basket.
Yeah. The Rams are like a sneaky good team. Nobody, like, they just find ways to win games. And sometimes you might look at them and be like, how did they win it? What did they do? What are the stats? And they just win. And you're like, all right, I don't get it, but okay, go team or whatever,
Or in my case, cry. Right. So either one.
They just figure it out. It's weird. So
they are that though. They do, like, even last year, the game that would have made the last week matter for Seattle. They had that Kyler Murray throws the ball, like hits his dude in the helmet, and I think it's Akella Witherspoon makes an unbelievable interception in the end zone to close the game out. And it's stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But again, I do give a hat tip because you said it. They do that kind of stuff. It's not
All
just
the
like
time.
once a year. It's like
All
that's
the
how
time.
they win games and make the playoffs. So I
Yeah.
can't say that's a fluke if they do that
Yeah.
consistently. It's probably just good coaching, and they
Or maybe
make
it's like relentless, or like never giving up, or like just like staying there long enough to make the play. Because a
that,
lot
but
of
that
teams get down and they won't stand up. Those
yeah.
kind of like, we lost this one. I've never seen really the Rams like give up. You know what I mean? Like I've never looked at them and been like, they don't think they can win this. I'm always like, this is a weird game.
And I think coaching has a big part of that
Yeah, I agree.
mentality, but also when you have a really strong quarterback, which they do in Stafford, when
Yeah.
he's on, it's Puka and the short game and Tyler, it's Tyler Higbee and they mix it in with Williams in the backfield. Like when Stafford's in like flow, it's who cares if they're down 14 with 8 minutes to go? It's like you can't count them out. They're good. They're
Yeah.
probably going to make a push, because if you have a top tier quarterback, you're not really out of it. So I think that's part of
I
why
agree.
we see that too, Flood.
Yeah. So, what is the most underrated player or position group for the Seahawks? Like, who is somebody that you feel like nobody really talks about them? They're just solid.
Yeah, I want to go like to 4 different areas. I'll first give some love to Leo Williams. I know everybody knows Leo Williams, Leonard Williams, but he doesn't make the Pro Bowl last year. He doesn't make All Pro last year. I don't know what a dude has to do to make at least a Pro Bowl, but he's got double-digit sacks from defensive tackle. He had a 93-yard interception return touchdown against Aaron Rodgers. And that wasn't just it. Like a ton of TFLs, the clear leader on that defense on a good defensive line that ended up 10th in DVOA. And maybe because Seattle's tucked away in South Alaska, that he just doesn't get the recognition he deserves. But man, Leo Williams, he's extremely strong, but probably the obvious answer. So I got one more, if that's okay, that I think people
Yeah.
talk about a little less. My favorite player on the team currently, if I had to go get a jersey today, would be Julian Love, our free safety. And he's just, he's kind of unassuming, but when you watch your Steelers, there's just that dude that you're like, well, it's like, I always think of it as like, well, Batman's got Gotham. Don't worry about Gotham. Batman's got it. He's cool. He's got Gotham.
Yeah.
It's under control. Julian Love has that presence, and whoever they've paired with him last year was Kobe Bryant with the other safety positions and Rayshon Jenkins. He elevates the rest of that group. So the safety group is the DBs in general, pretty darn good. But I think Julian Love's kind of the dude who kind of stirs the drink together. So he's my fave.
Okay. Do you guys have a Kobe Bryant and a Michael Jackson?
We did. So we still have a Kobe Bryant. And Michael Jackson was
so confused.
Yeah. Yes, yeah. So slightly
for like
different.
week 3. I was like, did they just say Kobe Bryant and then Michael Jackson?
We did, and they're both DBs. So
right.
Yeah,
it was so confusing. And I remember being like, why are we talking about these guys during football? That is amazing. I love that. Awesome. So, what is a hot take about your team that might surprise other fans, or like the other fans might not agree with you?
Yeah, I think again that most NFL fans not paying attention to Seattle, let's say last year, they probably are not putting Seattle in the upper echelon of defenses yet. And I think this year, my hot take is that Seattle's going to be, like top 5, top 7 DVOA across the board defense. So, and I think DVOA does a nice job of really understanding what goes in to call, to really judge if a team is a top defensively. There's a few factors there, but mainly it's like the same group as last year with some nice new additions. We got, DeMarcus Lawrence as a new defensive end from the Cowboys. He's a little older, but he's still just bringing in like a solid, you bring in an edge who knows what he's doing. It's like, okay, good luck running against him, and he still has enough pass rush juice. We have good edges with Mafe and Derek Hall. Our interior,
Oh,
Byron
how
Murphy.
is Murphy? How is
Yeah.
Murphy?
So Murphy got like a little bit. Thank you for asking. he got a little buried last year in the sense that it's like if you watch him, it's like okay, he's taken on two dudes almost always. So he became like de facto nose tackle last year, where
Okay, got
they're
it.
asking him to play like the zero tech right over the center or the
Okay.
one where you're slightly shaded. So he was doing like the dirty work last year.
Yeah.
And but Leo Williams is going off with like 11 and a half sacks or something like that. And Jaron Reed popped off with a good amount of sacks last year. And the edges were like 8 sacks each. Meanwhile, Murphy is just literally going down on one knee, taking on two dudes and freeing up linebackers, right? So he
doing
did
his job, doing his job.
so he did that very, very well, but it's not splashy. That's the
You're
big
right.
difference, right?
Yeah.
So now this year, there's a lot of talk of can they free him up a bit and allow him to get some of the pass rush downs. We'll see. We'll see how it all goes. But Murphy, so I would say he had a good, solid year. But defensively, I think Seattle's in a really cool position to pitch even higher this year. The schedule's not as strong just in terms of the QBs are going to face and the teams are facing. I know things change and we'll see how the year evolves, but it's just decidedly not as strong of a schedule as it was last year, talent wise. And, it's another year with Mike McDonald. That was year one. That's just year one. So now second year, it's like, this guy is the defensive Shanahan or McVay. And let's see what he dials up to continue to confuse defenses. Seattle was bad the first like 6-7 games. People might forget we literally cut our 2 starting linebackers who were brand new free agents last year.
I didn't know that.
Cut them like week 6, week 8, and then made the trade for Ernest Jones and started a rookie in Tyrese Knight at linebacker and completely flipped the script and became a much, much better defensive team. And then really just had a good, a good
I like it.
6-7 weeks of solid defensive ball. Again, going back to the whole season feeling kind of incomplete. It's like, man, our defense got it together and offense just fell apart.
Come along, guys. Please.
That's, I mean, you're a Steelers fan. You're a Steelers fan. You're used to good defenses and
that's what my Texas Longhorns were this year too. I'm like, one thing about me is I can find a good defensive team.
Yeah.
So that's awesome.
Well, let me can I ask you real quick about this?
You can ask whatever you want.
Yeah, since you're a Longhorns fan, were you shocked that Ewers didn't go to the 7th round, or did you think that was kind of where he belonged?
I made a video about Ewers and I said it wouldn't shock me if he went day 1. It wouldn't shock me if he went day 2. I think where he went in the draft speaks to his entire college career. I mean, he was rated 100% recruit out of high school at 16 years old and goes to Ohio State. Does it so yes, was I shocked? Yes, but then when I'm like reflecting, I'm kind of like, that's literally your career. It's like, and then what's going to be crazy is I will not be shocked if for a 4-week span this season, he just has an amazing span and people are like, oh my gosh, that's him. And then I just think he has a consistency problem and he's injury prone, and you can't be inconsistent and injury prone as a quarterback. Like that just can't happen. So
cool.
But it'll be interesting. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens to him. So if you were GM for a day, what would be the very first move you would make?
Well, I think if the GM had these powers, I would immediately commission a statue for Beast Mode, for the Beast Quake.
Oh,
that'd be number one, like literally, because team wise, I think we're in a pretty good spot, and they've addressed. Like if we didn't pick Gray Zabel, I'd be like, okay, go find the best guard who's a cap casualty after June 1st. Like go figure it out. Go make a trade for a guard who is a little upset, right? And wants out of town. But we actually patched some of those big things. To give a real answer, I probably would cut Noah Fant, our tight end, come June 1. He's expensive. And I think we drafted Elijah Arroyo, and we have AJ Barner, who's coming into his second year. We have a third tight end named Salbert, who's just kind of a blocking tight end. We have the complementary tight end room. So we just don't need a $13 million a year tight end who's, Noah Fant has been a okay NFL player, but he's never gotten to the level of the first round pedigree when he was drafted by the Broncos. And he's kind of okay. So I'm not into, like, one thing I hate, Flood, is you take me out to dinner or I take you out to dinner and we spend good money on mediocre food. That's
right.
It's like, I'm okay with spending money, but I want the food to be really good and the experience to be good for that money. Or then I'll just go to Taco Bell. I'll be fine. I know how to consume, but I hate the middle ground of, like, that was expensive and still subpar or mediocre. And I think Fant falls into that, the place I would not go to eat right now. It's like, you are expensive and you're okay. And I think those are the types of players you got to jettison when you can.
That was a great example. It's true. And it's the same with service. You're like, I could have stayed at home for this service. Like, this
Correct.
is terrible.
Yeah.
So now I have to pay for this. So yeah, great analogy. Yeah. So the final 4 questions I have are the overtime round. And these questions have been interesting because I've been making people kind of answer them kind of quickly, so it doesn't give you a lot of time to kind of self reflect on them. But I'm very fascinated to see what you're going to say on a couple of them. So the first one is, which division rival do you love to hate the most and why?
Yeah, I mean, I love to hate. It's the stupid 49ers. It's like the Rams are more of a problem recently. We covered some of the why, but there's nothing better than when the 49ers are good or not. I don't really care. And we just beat the crap out of them, or beat them by 1, or squash their dreams in the NFC Championship game. It doesn't matter. It's just beating the 49ers and their stupid fans is delightful. And it's so delightful. Their fans are really, I think, annoying. And
I'm realizing it's the fans. It's not the organization.
Yeah, the organization's okay. They've got some, like, there's some players I like George Kittle. I mean, holy crap, do I love me some George Kittle because of who he is as a tight end. I'm like, that's what a tight end should be. Yeah. So it's not like all hate for the players. Fred Warner is a linebacker.
I love Fred Warner. He's my favorite. Fred Warner and Trent Williams are like my favorites. Yeah. I know. Like, so
they got some great talent that I'm super like, I love you in a Seahawks uniform. But the Niners fans could kick rocks for eternity, as far as I'm concerned.
I love it. Okay. If you could change one thing about your franchise, what would it be? In, like, ownership, stadium, uniforms, the way the ballpark sets, whatever you can think of, what would it be?
So luckily, I talked about Seattle's ability to absorb a lot of change, and I think that's because they are a good franchise. They're well run. Their facilities are beautiful. The stadium's amazing. The ownership knows what it's doing. Schneider's a good GM. So they are a well run team, and it shows out when they go through change. And it's like, okay, it's not just like smooth sailing on the surface. It's like the actual ship is actually running still really smoothly, not just on the surface. With that, look, we got those delicious throwback uniforms that are just absolutely amazing. So breaking those out, I think it's going to be twice this year. That's just not enough. Like, we got to figure out a way that just that plus bring back the white retros, and because those are also amazing, and bring those back and bring them back yesterday. That's what I would change.
Okay. I like that. If you could swap one player from your team with one from your rival, who would you pick and why?
Yeah, we canvassed some just before that are annoyingly awesome 49ers. I'm going to avoid them just because it's like I'm also thinking, well, they're easy, but I'm also thinking of youth. It's like, not, like, I don't want a old Trent Williams. He's nasty, but he's old, and Kittle's getting up in age, and Fred Warner's getting up in age. So if I'm going to swap a dude, I'm trying to swap a guy that I'm like, okay, that guy could be here for, 6 years if we sign him again. And so I would actually take Puka Nacua from the Rams.
Okay.
We go get Cooper Kupp in the offseason, and that's cool. Now I'd like the healthy young version of Cooper Kupp, which I think might be Puka Nacua. So if I could just have Puka, which is Cooper 5 years ago, you're getting an absolute stud. And he's just one of those dudes that doesn't necessarily run the best routes, doesn't necessarily run the fastest, but boy, is he open, and
He's
boy,
open.
he catches everything,
Yeah.
and he's absolute baller. So, yeah, I would go get Puka because he'd be a lot of fun for sure.
I like that. That's a good that's actually a really good answer. That's a good practical answer. Like I like it. And then the last question is just describe your fan base in 3 words.
Yeah, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go with 2 with maybe an ampersand in the middle. I would say passionate and opinionated.
Okay.
Seahawks fans are not shy. There's some, and I live in Connecticut. I was born in New York, raised in New York, went to UConn, stayed in Connecticut. I'm talking to you right now from Connecticut.
Love that.
Yeah, I'm a UConn dude and a New Yorker. And there's a bit of an air in the PNW, and they have their way. They are very opinionated, but they love, and we love our team, and it's legit passion and like fanaticism. So it's fun.
That's awesome. Okay. I like that. I like that. Those were all the questions that I had. And then as I mentioned at the beginning of this, I will leave all your information in the description. So if anybody wants to know where to find you, things like that, everything will be in the description, anything that I can find. And then obviously I'll ask you for anything else you want me to add. But I like to end with my guests. So anything that you want to say, anything maybe we didn't talk about that you wanted to talk about, anything at all, I am all ears. I just like having these conversations. So I'll talk about anything.
No, I appreciate that. I think, I'm, what am I excited about? I've been, well, the schedule releases tomorrow, so we're gonna get into that. Seattle is playing Pittsburgh. So let me ask you about this. When we did our schedule pre-planning show to kind of talk about what do we think's going to happen. Our bet is that they'll make the game in Pittsburgh like late and cold. Like, so do you also feel, I know we can't maybe sense it, but I don't know. Do you have a sense that it's going to be like, I don't know, Seattle coming to Pittsburgh, December?
You know what's actually interesting? I don't know who else Pittsburgh plays, because I know the NFL does kind of think it's funny to like bring the warm teams to the cold places. Mm-hmm. Like they usually do that often. Like I think, if the 49ers went to go see Buffalo in like December.
Yeah, that was good.
Yeah. So so I think the NFL likes to do that. So it just depends on how else it pans out. However, I will say, I don't know if the Steelers are like priority right now. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know if the Steelers are like must see anything right now. So I don't know if they would really use us to decide what they're going to do. Now, if we knew for 100% certainty we were going to have Aaron Rodgers, probably I would say, yeah, they're going to make it so that he, yeah. But because I don't know how important the Steelers are right now to the NFL.
That's fair. How about, I guess one more thing I'd love to know from your perspective.
Yeah.
What are Steelers fans, you and Steelers fans feeling about, you do spend some trade capital on DK Metcalf and then you trade George Pickens. So how's that feel? Do you feel like you've improved the room? Do you think did you like the swaps?
Yeah.
Like, what's that for you?
So the real Steelers fans, not the ones on the fringe of like delusional to everything is terrible, right? Like the ones that are kind of right, that are kind of like, okay, let's look at this collectively. We're not surprised by Pickens at all. I don't know if I didn't think they had the courage to do it. So that shocked me, but I wasn't like surprised about Pickens. I think the problem with the Steelers is that we don't know, we need a quarterback. And I just think that we know what it's like to be really good with a good quarterback. And you can't try to trick us to make us feel like this is good. We know what good is. You can't just be like, no, we're going to be fine. Because it's like, no, but like you realize like we've seen really good in Big Ben. And now you're giving us just guys. And so I think collectively the Steeler fan base is kind of like, we're going to cheer for our team. We're going to be there, right? We're going to annoy everybody with our terrible towels. We're going to do all the things because that's what we do. But we're also wondering, like, where is our quarterback and what are we doing? What is the plan to even fix it? That's where I see the most frustration is what's the plan? Because even if Aaron Rodgers comes, that's still a 1-year rental.
Yeah, it's a 1-year thing. Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
So what's the plan?
And like how many more years can Tomlin, make chicken, chicken
Right.
just
Be 10 and
out of
7.
yeah,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
just
Be 10 and 7,
and
get in the first
figure
round and
right,
lose.
and then lose, right? So and he takes heat for that, but like so our franchises are or at least were quite similar. That after Seattle won in 2013, and then we don't want to talk about 2014, but like those Carroll years after that, it was very similar to Pittsburgh. It's like, okay, we're borderline elite. We're not quite elite, and we're going to lose. And we ended up losing in the first or second round over and over and over and over. But if you're like, okay, but winning in the NFL is hard. So winning 10 games, 11 games, 10 games, 9 games is something. It's amazing to me that, I just wonder what the patience is for Tomlin. Does Tomlin have like the forever pass because he is Mike Tomlin, or like even in Seattle where I thought Pete Carroll had the forever pass locked up. Even in Seattle, it got to the point where another 9-win season was not good enough, and they made the change. What do you think about
Tomlin's pass? Yeah, I think Tomlin's pass is going to depend on how the team looks, because so the things that have happened where there have been a lot of, like, not last year, the year before, there were a ton of injuries, and all of us were like, there's no way we're even gonna there's no way we're gonna win this many games. So there's some years where you kind of go, okay, he did a hell of a job, because we all thought like there's no way. And then there's other years where you're like the end of last year where it's like we didn't even look good. And that I don't think can happen. So I think that pass will run out if we don't look good. Now, if we're like really competitive and we just are losing games because we literally don't have a quarterback and we're doing every single thing right, I don't think they fire him, because it's kind of like, I'm sure he wants a quarterback too, I'm sure. I mean, sure, bless me with one. I would take him. And so I think it really depends on what we look like. I think because the end of last year got really bad. It was the first time that I've seen even people that support Mike Tomlin, they weren't like, he's got to go, but they were kind of like, we can't look like that. Like that can't happen. Like we can't give up 200 yards rushing. Like and then to be fair, we played the Eagles and we played Derrick Henry twice and we played Kansas City. And so it's like, again, it's like, I feel like we're constantly doing this thing, but at the end of the day, like you can't look bad. Like, because you can't say we're close if it looks bad.
Right. That's exactly, I think you nailed it there. I would say the nail in Pete Carroll's coffin, actually, when 2 years ago, the Steelers game was probably the nail, like towards the end of the year where the Steelers weren't very good. And they still beat us. Like you beat us soundly too. But there was a game like a couple of weeks before that where think Seattle was in Baltimore. I don't think it was the other way around, but whatever. Like, and Baltimore won by like 35, and like, it was just one of those, where we are nowhere near the upper tier, nowhere near it. So what are we doing? That's the absolute realization of, okay, no, this ain't, yeah. So, and then, I was still rah-rahing for Pete because I like Pete.
How did you feel then when he got the job for the Raiders?
Cool. That's awesome. And I think it's what I love about that spot for him is it's almost the inverse of the Seattle franchise and the Steelers franchise. We're talking about two of the better franchises, right? That have been good for a long time, that have won Super Bowls fairly recently, that have had storied quarterbacks. And the Raiders are not that. The Raiders just are, they don't make the playoffs. They're become a laughing stock. So I love the situation for Pete because I'm like, ooh, he could step in and within a year or two, it's like, oh, this team won a playoff game. This team made a wild card and made a run. And they might have lost to Mahomes in the second round, but that was a good game. Yeah. Honestly, I know Pete's going to say, no, we got to go win the chip. We got to win the Super Bowl. Of course, that's what he's going to say. He's an NFL coach. But I think in reality, it's just like if he gets them back to respectability plus, let's put it in that category, and they're like, "Ooh, you don't want to play that team. That team could hurt you." Then it's like, job well done. And he could kind of ride off into the sunset as one more feather in the cap of what's been a crazy career at this point. So I like the opportunity for him because there's a lot of room to go up, and he's, now he's got the players he's assembling really quickly. I'm pretty excited for that team. I think they're going to make some noise. It'll be fun.
Yeah, it will be fun. And I feel like every year I say the same thing. I'm like, this year is going to be a fun season. every year something happens and the pendulum swings to another division that's going to be an interesting one. And then next year will be another division. And it's the magic of the NFL. And it is what they do so well is one person goes here, one person goes here, a little coach goes there, good draft pick goes here. And then before you realize it, you're like, ooh, I kind of want to see this. Like, I kind of want to see the Falcons play defense this year. Yeah. I'm fascinated to see what the Falcons are going to do. Obviously, are the Eagles going to keep, doing what they were doing? And then what is the NFC North going to do? Are the Vikings still going to be the Vikings, or what is Green Bay going? So there's just like so many things every year that I'm like, the NFL does such a great job of just, and maybe they don't do anything. They're just providing the space, and there's only 32 teams, and figure it out. Everybody wants to win. That's what's important. I don't think any of these owners want to lose.
No, well, I think most, I would say most seem to not want to lose. There's some where I question it though. I'm like, really?
I do question their decisions.
Is this the best you could do over here in Cincinnati? But not calling you out specifically, but kind of am. So, but I think the thing about the NFL, like, and what you're getting at too, is like, people always talk about, oh, we gotta plan for the long term. We gotta plan for 7 years out. The NFL doesn't give a damn about 7 years. The NFL rotates in 3-year increments. Like, that is it. And yes, when you get your Josh Allen or your Mahomes, and Mahomes has won the Super Bowls, right? But when you get the absolute stud quarterback, you extend those windows, and then you just cycle in 3-year increments around your
good analogy,
your son, if you will, right? But it's 3-year. It's just these 3-year windows, and it's like either you have a real shot in those 3 years, or you don't, and you got to draft. You got to get a quarterback and kind of start over. And really, there's not much in between. So I think we see so much good fluctuation where it's like, well, where'd they come from? You mentioned the Falcons. It's like, look, I saw Michael Penix do his thing. That guy can make every throw. He could spin the ball like very, very few others. Yeah. I mean, could the Falcons be like the Commanders of last year?
Right. Oh, and then the Commanders, right? And then the Commanders, like, I mean, there's just so many. Yeah. But again, every year they do this, and maybe you're right. Maybe it's because they play the long game in a sense, but they're really focused on the right now. And I think, what I think the NFL, I think it's because also you're always making decisions. You have rookie mini camp. You make a decision if you're going to bring the person back when OTAs start. You make decisions. June 1st designation. You're making decisions. And I think it's because in the NFL, because you don't really get to do that in college.
Yeah. No,
it's like the guy is there, and sorry, like, if he gets in transport, it gets transportal. It's really hard to kick him off at a certain time because it's closed and you have to stick with the guy. But I feel like the NFL is like, season's over, free agency, let's get the draft. Actually, we're going to trade you. Actually, so it's like this constant thing. And then when you do that, it also makes us interested because we're like, oh, they just traded him for him. Do they play this year? And so it's like all this activity. But anyways, and I think at the beginning of this, I called you Clint, which, by the way, I'm terrible at names. So if I did call you Clint and not Clinton, it's my bad. I will call. I am terrible with names, but if you wanted to ask me who like number 17 is or 97, I will. I can't tell you his name, but I can tell you everything he did in the game. That's like my weakness. And I think it's because I also teach. I'm a college professor. Nice. I have so many students that it's like, what was your discussion on? Got it. I remember you now. What's the question? Because it's so hard. So anyways, I appreciate you coming on, lending me your time. Hopefully this isn't the last time that we are able to have a conversation, and our teams play this year. So who knows? Who knows? Crazier things have happened.
Yeah, we should definitely chat again. I do appreciate it too. Yeah. Really, really fun discussion. And I hope you get to go to either a home game in Pittsburgh, or if you're planning on some away games this year.
I have a rule until I am not buying a Steelers ticket. Last time I usually don't buy the Steelers tickets, but I am not going to see a Steelers game until I feel like I have to go see this. Like that's because that's how I used to feel.
Yeah.
I used to be like, I have to go see Ben. I have to go see James Harrison. I have to go see, like I used to. Now I'm just kind of like, what is this, guys?
Gotcha. All right.
But anyways, I know that you're thinking about seeing what you're going to do for your game. So I hope you pick a great game to go to.
Thank you. Yeah, me too.
You're welcome.
I'll be thinking about that all the way through tomorrow, and then
I know you will.
Plan starts. So
I love it. Well, we'll talk soon.
All right. Appreciate you.